Welcome to the Fox Den. I'm Nathan, and this morning I am sitting down with Claire Isabel. Claire, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Amazing. I'd like to jump right in and ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
So, I'm a teacher and I just started my own practice. I just started my own consulting and advisory education practice. I've been a teacher for almost a decade. I started when I was super young. I started teaching when I was 21. And before that, I had so much experience working with children and teenagers. And after nearly a decade, I decided to jump into a consulting practice because I developed so many incredible relationships with parents, with families. I developed incredible relationships with students. I felt I was watching my students grow remarkably over the years. And I had all of this advice, and I don't want to use the word expertise just yet, but I had all of this experience and advice that I bottled, and I wanted to give it to people, not just people in my classroom, not just the families that I was working directly with, but I wanted to cast my net even wider and see how I could help people. So I decided to open my own consulting and advisory practice, and it's been a few months and it's been going great. So that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. Can I ask,
Yeah.
what school are you teaching at?
So I work in a school in the public school board here in Toronto, and I work at a lovely school in Midtown.
Midtown Toronto.
Yeah.
And what is it about you that really lends itself to be a consultant? You mentioned that you have a lot of advice, but is this something that there was a pivot point for you? You had a light bulb moment. Tell us a little bit about more about that.
Yeah, I definitely had a light bulb moment this past year. I had a group of students that were extremely diverse. I was working with such a wide range of children and such different families. And I had so many windows into different kinds of learners, into different kinds of families. And it made me need to become very creative in terms of what I was doing differently for each student and for their families. And the more that I was working and supporting each student, the more I learned. And I loved working closely with the families. This past school year, I was teaching grade 1 and I was teaching grade 2. And if anybody is listening and knows anything about education, grade 1 and grade 2 are really pivotal years because it's the foundation of their learning for the rest of their education journey.
Sure.
So, having to be so, I guess the word is inside their families and inside their minds really inspired me to take everything that I've learned and make it bigger. And as I said, I love my relationships with the families. I love to schmooze with parents. So I was
Sure.
like, I want to do more of this. I want to spend more time talking to parents. I want to spend more time getting to know children on a deeper level. So that's what inspired me to launch my practice.
That's incredible. Is this something that you thought you'd be doing, like teaching and consulting when you were young? How did that process look for you? Basically your career journey. Tell us a bit about that.
I never in a million years thought I was going to be a teacher. It's something that happened so naturally, and it's something that really came very organically. Actually, how it started was to begin, I always loved children and I always loved working with people. So I knew that I needed to be in an industry where I was in front of people and I was people facing. But really, how it began was I was in undergrad, I was in university, and I needed a job. And I was like, what can I do where I can make the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time? How can I maximize my time efficiently? I was working different odd jobs and I really didn't like it. I had jobs at frozen yogurt shops. I was doing all these funny things to earn some cash. I was young. I wanted to, go out. I was 18, 19, and I decided, you know what? Why don't I just tutor? I spoke French. I was always very gifted in languages, so I was very good at English. So I decided, okay, I'm going to take everything that I know about speaking French. I'm going to take everything I know about writing, and I'm going to tutor. And I posted an ad on Kijiji because at the time that was sort of how, word got out there. And I just said, I'm a French tutor. I also help university students with university applications because I was really good at writing essays. And somebody found me on Kijiji, hired me for her tutoring agency, and then word of mouth spread. And that's how it all started. So it really started with tutoring just because I wanted to maximize how I could make money in the least amount of time as a student. And then very organically, things started to spiral or snowball, I should say. So I was in class one day and one of my peers approached me and she said, Hey, Claire, there's this school in the neighborhood that you live in, and I feel like you would be the perfect fit there. They're looking for someone to teach grade 12 English. And I said, I don't have a teaching degree. I actually don't have an English literature degree, so they won't be able to hire me. And she was like, No, you're the perfect fit here. It's in the neighborhood that you live in. And I feel like you and the founder of the school would really get along. So I thought, why not? And I actually that day I drove to the school and I introduced myself to one of the teachers working there. The next day, the founder of the school called me. We had a 5-minute phone call. She hired me at the phone call. And on the first day of the job, when I was working at this independent private school, I actually got into teachers college. And I had really only applied to teachers college because I had this experience tutoring and I didn't really know what I was going to do next. And it seemed like it made sense for me. So everything just happened really organically. And I ended up being promoted at this school. And keep in mind that when I started working at this private school, I was 21 and I was teaching grade 12 English. So my students were 17 and 18, and I was 21. I was like the child leading the children. But it worked and I loved it. And I enjoyed going to work. I didn't even feel like I was working. Like I was having fun. Truly, I was having fun. COVID hits in 2020 and, all camps get canceled. So the founder of the school and we essentially ran a full-time school for all of these teenagers whose camp got canceled. And we were working like crazy June to August, running all of these different courses. And I remember her saying to me, Claire, like, it's okay. Like, you can go enjoy your summer. Do you need a break? And I was like, no, like, I'm in the rhythm. I'm in the swing of things. I love it. And listen, in COVID, how old was I? I was in my early 20s in charge of a bunch of teenagers. Like, what could have been more fun? And then things just continued to snowball. I graduated teachers college right away. I got a contract with the public school board and was thrown in a whole bunch of different classrooms, special needs classrooms included. And here I am. So
Can I ask which teachers college was it? Somewhere close to home?
no, I went to Western. And when I was at Western, I was actually driving back to Toronto on the weekends to teach at this private school.
You were commuting two
Mhm.
hours every single, well, actually 4 hours there and back
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah. So I would be in class Monday to Thursday. And then either Thursday night or Friday morning, I would come home and I would work all weekend and I would tutor. So I was working at this school teaching English, tutoring, and in school all at the same time. And then I would drive back Sunday night and do it all over again. But like I said, I was really just in the rhythm and doing things, and I wasn't really overthinking it. And I was just locked in. So it all happened so quickly.
Wow, that's sounds like a busy time for sure.
But yeah, flew.
It flew, yeah.
Yeah.
What? So a lot of people have some idea of what teachers do, and I know there's the joke amongst people is, oh, you have the summers off, it's so
Yeah.
easy, you have all of July and August, and people think they have an idea about what your job is, but what's the reality? What is it like on a day-to-day basis, or do you have any interesting stories of you actually teaching?
I love this question because teaching is truly the most understood profession, most misunderstood profession that I can think of, because people make snap judgments about what teachers do and what teachers are like. And I've heard all the things. I've heard all the misconceptions about teaching.
All the tropes about it. Yeah.
I've heard all the stereotypes and, the judgments that people make, but teaching is such an emotionally taxing profession. I don't think people understand what it's like to really be in charge of 20 plus children and be the spearhead of what they're doing on a daily basis. And I think I'm trying to make it sound, I feel like even when I speak about it now, teaching doesn't sound hard. But I think people forget to realize how emotionally taxing it is, and the amount of responsibility that comes with making decisions about people. Children are still people, and we we are making decisions about the outcomes of their future, of their learning, especially when you're working with children with learning exceptionalities, special needs. Every decision you make can be very monumental to the well-being of the child. There are also so many different hats that teachers wear. We're not just teaching pedagogy and teaching curriculum. We're also working with multidisciplinary teams. I spend a lot of my time working with child psychologists, working with school social workers, working with administrators, working with specialist teachers. If I have a child who is hard of hearing or blind, or even if I have a child who has really severe ADHD or dyslexia, I'm working with so many different teams of people to strategize what is the best learning path for this student. So it's not just standing in front of a whiteboard and 1+1 = 2. It's so much more emotionally, there's so much emotional investment that comes with teaching. And there are so many hats that you have to wear, so many meetings, so much paperwork that goes on behind the scenes that people forget to realize.
Right. It's definitely more than meets the eye. That's for sure. Right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Every
Do you?
time I have a
Yeah.
parent come on a field trip, they're like, "Oh my God, I don't know how you do this all day." I'm like, "Good, good. I better get a good Christmas gift."
Exactly. Right. Yeah,
Exactly.
there's a lot of people who just can't get their head around how teachers do operate on a daily basis. It is very taxing emotionally, that's for sure. Do you have any particular stories from your career that stand out to you?
I have so many. I have so many.
Tell us a story from Isabel on the job, and I think we all have interesting stories to share like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of my stories are in the smaller moments that I share with the kids. When I'm a classroom teacher, so I have my own homeroom, and I've been a classroom teacher since I started working for the public board. And when you're a classroom teacher, your students really are like your children. We all really become family. And I actually tell the kids all the time, like, we're like a family because we spend 7 hours a day, 5 days a week together. In many cases, I'm spending more time with those children than some of their parents. So when you spend so much time with these children, the relationships and the bonds that you make just become so special. Like, I've gone to my students' hockey games. I've kept in touch over multiple years with some of my students' parents, especially the moms. I can't say like there's been like one experience in particular that was crazy or life changing. I really think it's like the day to day moments and those experiences over time that really make teaching special. Obviously, this is a profession where financially we don't get compensated by much. Just saying,
Right.
what's true.
You're not working on Bay Streets.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Like, we're not, teachers are not being, to
Not
be a teacher.
respected, not respected.
I think we are respected. I would argue that I feel respected in my profession, but I'm very lucky. I think I work with incredible families and I work in an incredible community that I absolutely love. But I would say more it's a profession where you really need to have heart for the children and you really need to genuinely care. If you don't have heart for the children and if you don't actually care about the kids and the families, you won't be able to do it because the compensation doesn't match
Yeah.
how much output you're putting,
Right.
especially the emotional part of it because, when things can become very emotional when you're
Sure.
working with young
Sure.
children and their families.
I think it's actually, I don't know if you've heard this stat. I think it's within the first 5 years, 50% of teachers end up leaving the profession. They just can't
Yes.
handle it, right? Have you heard that before?
Yes, I've heard that many times. I've heard of teacher burnout because it is a reality. And I wish that the public had a little bit more sympathy and
Yeah,
recognition for the amount of work that teachers do.
for sure. Let me ask you, for young people starting out their career journey, what kind of advice would you give them? Would you tell them to go into teaching, or what's your advice for people starting out?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I'm eligible to give advice yet because I feel like I have such a career in front of me. But the things that I have learned so far are number one, and this is something that I always tell my students who are in grade 7 and 8, you have to do what you're good at. Really. Yes, people say like do what you love, follow your passion, or like go where the market moves, but the market is saturated and it's competitive. So you need to find your niche. You need to find what you are good at. You need to find what are you better at than 90% of people. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is I always encourage my students to be distinctive, be different, say something that's different. It's being the same as everyone else is boring and overdone. I love children. I speak a lot about children because that's the industry that I work in. I love children that are unafraid to be themselves. I love working with students that are unapologetic and are proud to be who they are. So be yourself, be distinctive. That's what makes you memorable. That's what makes you want to get hired. That's what makes people want to work with you. I think people can feel very quickly when someone is inauthentic, right? Like we've all been in rooms or we've all been in situations where we've met someone or we're talking to someone and it feels awkward, it feels uncomfortable. And I really think that's
Right.
because we can feel that that person is just trying to be somebody they're not. Or if somebody is self conscious, well, maybe if you were more yourself, you would feel a little bit more confident. So I always say, don't be afraid to be distinctive. And then the third is every career, every job that I've had, every experience that I've had has been full of so many challenges. And I know that everybody knows, there's no such thing as a completely linear path.
Absolutely.
But I think what has allowed me to speed in my career so quickly, I was hired by the public school board when I was 23. I was given a contract at 23, which is crazy. But I think the main reason I was able to move so quickly and keep going is because I really know how to tolerate pain and I know how to tolerate rejection. And I think the best thing that all young people, especially today, really need to understand is you have to be willing to feel pain and you need to be able to feel rejection and keep going. I've had so many setbacks. I've had so many failures, so many disappointments in my life, both professional and personal. But every single day, I make a decision to keep going because I have a vision of my life and what I want to do. And I don't let disappointments get in the way of me keeping going. So you need to feel the pain, feel the rejection, and always keep going. Just
Keep
keep
going.
going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Have a thick skin and be resilient. Listen, Claire, where can people follow you and support your work?
So everybody can follow me. I feel like I love LinkedIn. And I was like, why was I sleeping on LinkedIn? Like you found me on LinkedIn. I never felt that I needed it. But I recently got LinkedIn and I absolutely love it. I've been posting my thoughts on LinkedIn. I've been sharing lots of, tips and tricks of the teacher trade on LinkedIn, and I've connected with so many really fascinating people. So definitely go find me on LinkedIn. You can find me under Claire Isabel, and I speak all about my consulting and advisory practice. But I'm also happy to throw out my email out to the public because that's a vehicle of communication. So my email is claire@claireisabel.com for all my consulting and advisory services. And please don't hesitate to be in touch.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. Keep doing what you're
Absolutely.
doing.
This was so fun. I want to come on here all the time.
All right, you'll come back. All right, thank you, Claire.
You're
Take
welcome.
care.
Bye.
Take care.